Hey MCARBO Brotherhood, I'm Chris Nelson, President at MCARBO, and I'm really excited to talk about your AR-15 magazine springs. MCARBO is proud to release an AR-15 extra power magazine spring for your 30-round mags. Now the deal is, these factory magazine springs are of a lower grade steel, and they're also a thinner gauge steel, so they're more prone to wear, they're more prone to taking a set over time. Most of us leave our magazines fully loaded in case something happens and we need to obviously use our AR-15s. So the thing is, we've got 10, 15 of these mags. We're always rotating through them, as we should, right? Every 3 months, you're loading these up just in case you need them, and then you're completely unloading them and reloading other magazines every 3 months. That's the idea. With these factory weaker springs in here, they tend to take a set sooner. Okay, so the problem is these springs take a set, and it doesn't matter if you put 30 rounds in here, 28 rounds, 27 rounds, they'll still take a set. So that's the Achilles heel of our AR-15 rifle. That failure to feed malfunction that you're getting is because of that weak magazine spring. But there's good news. It's an inexpensive, fast and easy fix, and it's a great hedge against your next failure to feed malfunction. It's a great insurance policy, and it's a great way to rebuild these magazines. So whether you've got the metal GI style mags like this and you're rebuilding it, you know, a lot of guys can pick these up pretty cheap. You can get them from a surplus store, and then you can get yourself a really good spring, and now you've got a completely functional mag. Whether it's the P mags, the Pro mags, all other variations out there, the MCARBO Extra Power AR-15 magazine spring will work for it. So the idea here is thicker gauge steel, more premium steel. It's going to actually take a much longer time for this spring to take a set. So you're supposed to do every 3 months with your standard spring. You could get at least every 6 months with this beefier spring. Now the idea is to still do those 3-month rotations, but if you had to get away with it, I'd much rather put my life on the line with this spring rather than the factory cheap spring that's in here. So it's worth the money, it's worth the investment, and it's worth the time. Not to mention you get to closely inspect these magazines every 3 months, you know, as you're unloading them, cleaning them. I would also say if you've got a whole stack of these, and we're gonna sell these by, you know, massive quantity packages, so you can get a 25 pack if you want, keep them on hand. You know, you start to have a magazine that's giving you a little bit of trouble, instead of throwing out the mag, go ahead and replace the spring and see if that fixes the problem. Now we're going to jump on over to the tabletop. I'm going to show you a couple other things to take a look at whenever you're doing your preventive maintenance on your magazines. It's good to clean them every few months, and it really is the only way to clean them is to take it apart. So I would highly recommend going through all your mags if you haven't replaced the springs and replacing them, especially if they're over a year old. It's time. Especially if you've been using them a lot. It's kind of like the tires on your car. You can get a lot of mileage out of them if you rotate them frequently, you take care of them, you keep the proper pressure in them. Same with magazines. You've got to rotate them frequently, you've got to take care of them, you've got to actually really baby them. Now if you put this heavy duty extra power spring in there, you can get away with a lot more. But I would still highly recommend getting quite a few of these, replacing magazine springs as necessary. Don't take your chances on something that's so affordable and inexpensive. And no need to throw away magazines either. I mean, you can completely rebuild these things very quickly. This is a great little weekend project. You can run through all 15 magazines that you got, you know, in an hour or less, easily, probably in 30 minutes or less. So let's jump over the tabletop, we'll go through it. Parts and tools needed for this build: either a 1-pack, 3-pack, 10-pack, 25-pack of your AR-15 extra power magazine springs from MCARBO, and the only tool you're going to need is your 1/8 inch punch. That's it. Very simple. So let's start with the standard GI mag first. This is your metal mag. Now this is the follower here. Now these are notorious for getting stuck like that. Now the stiffer spring will help eliminate that a little bit, but having a better follower would be the idea. Well, that would be the remedy, but a stiffer spring will help kind of keep it from getting stuck like that. Now your floor plate right here. The trick is with these GI style mags, you take your punch, you go into the hole, and you pull up a little bit. You see that? See those little tabs right there? So that's why we're pulling up and then out, okay? So it's a nice, simple little process. A little snug. You're gonna have some tension on it. There you go. So in and out, and you just pull that spring right out, and the follower comes with it. You may have to maneuver this follower a little bit. Just be delicate. You know, it's going to get stuck right here. You just got to kind of work it a little bit, just like that, okay? So there's the magazine, the inside of the casing. We would actually clean this out. So you take your rag, take your cleaning solvents, spray it in there. You could even wash this thing if it was that filthy. Just make sure it dries completely before you put it all back together. So that's a great idea. Then also checking these feed lips right here. You want to make sure they're not dented or cracked or anything like that. Now you can see there's a ton of wear on this. That's okay as long as it's still locking in place. You also want to check this little lock channel here, make sure everything is functional, it's not dented, cracked, broken, anything like that. So everything looks good for the most part on this magazine. This is great. You never really pay that much attention to them, so this is kind of a good time to really get, you know, a nice intimate look at these magazines, make sure they're 100% good to go. Now the springs, real simple. You'll notice the spring's got this little hook down here, okay? Right there. So that's what we're using. Okay, you'll see this is the floor plate end right here, how it's just kind of a generic, you know, they just kind of cut it at that end of the spring there, okay? And let's quickly look, kind of compare these two together. Okay. Yeah. So you can see already, you know, the stiffness difference between them. Now what we'll do is we'll take this follower and we'll pop it right off and we'll put it right on the MCARBO Extra Power mag spring. Now, real simple, it just hooks in there. So you could take your punch, give you a little assist, and just pop it out, all right? Because they are springs, they will bend a little, and that's fine. You're not trying to deform it, you're just trying to get it out of that follower. So we just get it out. Okay. Now, put it in the same way. This little trick right here, if you slide it down, it won't really score it too bad. It'll just kind of ride it right down the middle there. Okay. All right. Now we need to go ahead and insert our Extra Power magazine spring and follower into the mag itself. Now what I like to do is go ahead and grab a mag that I haven't used yet, use it sort of as a practical guide. You can see this raised portion here of the follower on this side of the mag. We're going to do the exact same thing here. So here's the raised portion of the follower. We're going to make sure we keep it in that alignment. So I like to take this longer end here of the follower and insert that first. So it's under these two tabs here on that short little neck portion, all right, at the bottom of the magazine. So you'll insert that, they'll kind of drop in there, and that's the side that'll fight you a little bit. So once you get that in there, you're usually pretty golden after that. It'll just kind of fall right in, like so. Now, if it does give you any trouble, take your punch and just gently kind of pry up on it a little bit, you know, to bend them a little bit out of the way. You can use your pliers, but just don't go overboard. I like to just use the punch because it kind of restricts, you know, my ability to go overboard. So it's kind of a good way to prevent that. But once you do, you're going to put the floor plate on next, and all we'll do is we'll just press down on those tabs to make sure they're 100%. So we'll look in here, make sure our follower's lined up good. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and just press down on the Extra Power mag spring, take our floor plate, and we're going to insert it underneath those tabs and lock it right into place like so. Okay. Now these tabs, you know, we're just going to push down on them a little bit. You can actually just push down on the table. Make sure they're 100%. There we go. And if they don't look like they're 100%, take a little tiny hammer and give it a little tiny tap. Make sure they're good and flush. But that's solid right there. All right, so Extra Power mag spring. You can see it's not sticking now. I can't even get that follower to stick, which is great. I'm trying to, but it won't. Wouldn't do that before, would it? So that's great. One extra little benefit, especially for the GI mags that tend to stick quite a bit. Now the P mags, these are a lot better. I mean, these things actually, they don't stick like that. They've got a good follower in there, but the spring is just as weak too. So we're gonna go ahead and take this one apart. This one's really simple and straightforward. Take your punch, push down on the button, slide the floor plate right off like so, and comes out your spring and follower, okay? Now you can see here we've got like a floor plate within a floor plate going on here and our follower up top. You can see how this follower is so much better. You know, it's got nice good length, about an inch on each side to help keep it in place, keep it from actually getting stuck. So good job, Magpul, on these mags. All we're gonna do is just change out the spring. The spring is the standard mil-spec spring, so it's weaker. You know, we're gonna change it out with a heavier gauge spring, the Extra Power mag spring. It just makes sense. So giving us that little extra boost in performance and reliability, which doesn't hurt to have. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our punch, right? We're going to do the same thing we did on that GI style mag. We're just going to pull, we're just going to pry a little bit, right? We're just going to get that spring out of that loop, easy enough, right? Okay. Now we're going to do one thing at a time, which makes sense. Just make it as little complicated as possible. So we'll go ahead and do exactly what we just did. All right, same placement of that spring and that loop, except now on this style, we're just basically manipulating it. We're just pushing it around until we can get it to lock into place, which is a lot easier than that GI style. You saw how we had to kind of slide it down the middle of that little center post. This one, right in there, no problem. All right, set that down. Grab our floor plate, our internal floor plate, and we're just going to pop it off, just like that. All right, and we're going to do the exact same thing in reverse over here on the extra power mag spring. We're just going to drop it, actually slide it right on, just like so. Okay, there we go. Good to go. All right, so it's all together. Let's go ahead and insert follower and extra power magazine spring into the PMag. Just drops right in like so, real easy. And we'll just double check. We'll take one of our other mags that we hadn't messed with yet. There we go. Okay, we've got the raised portion of the follower on the appropriate side. All right, good. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and just press down on that internal follower. We'll go ahead and take our floor plate and we'll just slide it right over and we're good to go. Awesome. Look at that. So much nicer. Well, there you have it, guys. That's how to replace the mag spring in your GI style mag and your PMag style magazines. Go ahead, let me know what you think. I'm excited to get you guys trying these and let us know what you think and how it improves your feeding operations. Trust me, it's a great way to ensure you're not going to have any sort of failure to feed malfunctions, or at least reduce your failure to feed malfunctions while you're doing your kind of preventive maintenance on these magazines. So remember to change your magazines every 3 months at a minimum. Change out those magazine springs every couple of years and you'll be good to go. You'll be doing everything you can to reduce those failure to feed malfunctions. Thanks, guys, and as always, happy shooting.